So the answer is yes, you do see behavioral changes in the mice. There's always a question whether the behavioral changes you see, how much they relate to what you see in humans, but in many cases the outcomes look very similar. It's always important to recognize that people are not mice and mice are not people. But again, this is the closest you're going to be able to get. You could use primates, but there's a whole different set of issues with primates. You talked about PETA. Well, talk about if you use primates, you're in for a lot of financial grief and a lot of other grief. So rodents are and that's what the pharmaceutical industry uses too. They don't usually use monkeys. They just don't, because they're expensive and they're hard to use. And they're hard to work with. So we're not doing anything different than what the pharma is doing when they're doing their very minimal safety studies. Interesting, though, that going back to that book, Trust Us, We're Experts, because the three things that come out of all these different areas is, first, they deny that there's anything happening. Then they ridicule the people that are saying that something is happening. And then they say, oh, well, maybe it is, but it's actually a good thing. No, it's really great, because and you look at all the discussion in the last couple of years about neurodiversity and indigo children. It's like, oh wow, it's something to celebrate. We should be happy. The human species is branching out into new domains. We should welcome this. Well, again, it's like the ice is melting in the polar ice caps. Well, that's good, because you can drive tankers through it now, and the fish are falling out of the oceans, but that's okay because we can grow them on land, etc. So you find the happy face to put on all these things. So you have your blue whatevers hanging on trees, because it's something to celebrate, not something to be afraid of. So what if it costs us another couple $1 billion a year in the school funds that we don't have anyway? So again, go back to the book, because it just lays it all out in detail. So but again, just coming back to the other part of the answer is, yeah, we see a lot of features that are, for example, one of the things that we see, we've recently seen in our mice, I don't know if you know what barbering is. So mice sometimes overgroom themselves, and they overgroom each other, and can be very aggressive about it. Or they basically trim each other's whiskers off, and sometimes their fur. Yeah. And in our last study, the one that's ongoing, there's a ridiculously high level of barbering going on in the vaccinated animals. We don't know what that means, because that's people have seen it in others. Luis Lujan saw it in his vaccinated sheep. They would basically go up and bite each other's wool off. So there's some sort of, and again, what does that correlate to with humans? Don't know. But there's some very, very interesting things going on that's very, very striking. Not all the mice don't do it, but the controls don't do it at all, almost not all. Whereas only the vaccinated animals do it, and it's just weird. And then eventually it kind of dies down, but it's really intense for a while. So something is happening in the early stages right after these animals get the treatment. So,